Hello, this is Greg Allison Greengrass coming to you today with special guest Ken Swartz. Guys, it's about to hit the fan, but when it hits the fan, you need to have the best health you can have. You need to be in the best shape you can be in because these days are going to be very trying upon us. It's going to challenge our physical and mental faculties beyond anything you can imagine. So you need a good, solid foundation to start. And for these reasons, it's important to talk about health. It's important to talk about things like that. And by the way, Ken Swartz is also a prepper. He's also he's a rocket scientist like myself, basically. He's been quite involved in space projects and mathematics and things like that. So I'm going to let Ken tell you about this product he's got, C60, and why that is so important to your health and how you can use it in prepping. Ken, tell us what C60 will do for you.
Okay, well, first thing, C60, we'll probably just give you what it is. It's a little molecule. It's shaped exactly like a soccer ball, 60 carbon atoms. You can kind of actually see it behind me on the screen. That's the best way. It was discovered in 1985. It actually solved a long-standing mystery in astronomy. It's the DIBS, diffuse interstellar bands it was absorbing in the infrared. And that was a problem since 1913. And then it got a Nobel Prize in 1996 for chemistry because it's really the only spherical molecule of one element. It's totally unique in its chemical action as well. And but it wasn't until the early 2000s that they found ways to make enough of it. It's still more expensive by weight than gold, the high purity stuff. But then they started testing. The famous Botry study is probably the most famous early one, and it basically doubled the lifespan of test animals, Wistar rats specifically. And
tell us more about that. It doubled the lifespan of these.
Yeah, of Wistar rats by completely preventing the occurrence of cancers, cognitive decline, and other diseases associating with aging in Wistar rats. Yeah, Wistar rats are one of the type of rats that they use for testing. They're not like your street rat, which is really tough, right? So they're kind of wimpy rats, and usually they kick the bucket because of cancers or other, they're like the little foo-foo dogs. And so
if you're a wimpy rat, this can double your lifespan. What about
exactly? But for healthier, but it basically they just lived like a really, really long, healthy life till they hit the expiration date, and that was kind of the first big ones. And the way I discovered it, I was working on the metal oxygen fusion reactor project, and I was running it. And, when you do the research of it, it's full of, it's dead professor this and the late doctor that. And so I didn't want myself or my crew to end up like that because they had families and stuff. So I went out searching for a radiation protectant, and I came across this stuff called carbon-60. Its science name is Buckminster fullerene, but everybody calls it C60. It's its nickname. And
or buckyballs or fullerenes.
Yeah, buckyballs, fullerenes. Yeah, fullerenes are actually the allotropic class. There's a whole other. Allotrope is like forms of carbon. You got diamond, you got graphene, you got graphite, and then you've got the fullerenes and carbon-60, you got carbon-70, you got carbon-84. So you have all these different fullerenes, but C60 is the only one that has antioxidant properties. And that's essentially its a special thing because it's all spherical. And so it has like a uniform charge at the active sites on it, and it's just in the right spacing. And well, anyway, let me get to where I was. So I was doing the radiation protection, and I got a couple sources. So I was taking it while we were doing the research, but I kept taking it afterwards because things like I felt I had more energy, maybe a bit more mental clarity, and the afternoon blahs went away. When you eat lunch and like 2 o'clock, you want to go to sleep. That's the afternoon blahs. So they kind of went away, and just overall better health. But what really got it, as I was about 7 months maybe after I started taking C60, and I went into my eye doctor, and my drusen or dry macular degeneration had completely disappeared. And my eye doctor, my optometrist, was pretty impressed with that because he'd never seen that happen before. And in the meantime, my electrical engineer on the project, Gary Rodriguez, he had developed severe wet macular degeneration. We used to be able to post his before and after pictures, but some three-letter agencies.
I know Gary from way back.
Yeah, he's another rocket scientist guy, and so he's electrical engineer on the project I was working on. And so he had and after taking about a tablespoon of C60 and MCT oil. That's hopefully you got the green kind of screen on. He for a year, his wet macular degeneration completely disappeared, and it was severe. And so that after that, I started making it for friends, family, and myself. And then I had alternative healthcare practitioners who started using it, and they gave it to their customers. They got great results. And then one day, Cliff High mentioned me on Sarah Westall's show, and I did like huge sales in one day. In fact, that was the 100th monkey event that brought C60 into public consciousness. Because before that, there was just a handful of little sellers, and it was just a micro thing. Nobody knew about it except geeky scientist types. But now it's kind of getting out there into the mainstream, and which is a good thing. And some of the other things that well, I'll go over the human studies. First human studies were they put C60 in a cream for face cream for Japanese women, and it found that face cream reduced lines and wrinkles in Japanese women. And then they did it topically for hair, and they found out that C60 increased hair growth and would regrow hair in cases of hair loss not due to male pattern baldness. Sorry, guys. I got that too. I've been rubbing it up there. It slows down hair loss, but it doesn't get rid of it. That's but a lot of people have hair loss because of other problems, and C60 brings it back in those cases. And here's an interesting study. They did a study where they it's an anti-inflammatory. So things, if you like, let's say you've got arthritis in your hands or something, you rub C60 on it, probably about 30 minutes later, you're going to start noticing the pain goes away. It's same with sunburn. You get sunburn, put it on the sunburn about 30 minutes later, because it's, what C60 does, C60 doesn't, what C60 kind of lifts the oxidative burden the cells are under, so the cells can heal themselves. And so oxidative species, it really only deals with two oxidative species out there. One is superoxide, and that's an oxygen with an extra electron. And then the other is the hydroxyl ion, and that's basically a water molecule missing a hydrogen atom. And that's what happens when that's what happens with radiation. And that's all C60 interacts with. There's a lot of like oxidative radicals. Well, oxidative radicals are basically what causes your body to rust, right? That's what oxidative damage is. It's your body rusting. But some of the oxidative radicals in your body, the body uses for signaling molecules. Like one is the nitrogen oxides. That's what makes the capillaries dilate or contract. That's really important, guys, for one reason. And others are like hydrogen peroxide. That's also a signaling molecule. And there's some others based around sulfur, iron, and zinc. And like conventional antioxidants interfere with that. That's why they did a meta study. And if you go to whatisc60.org, that's like an independent site that has like all because we can only post human studies on our place, but it's one sponsored by a bunch of C60 companies, so you can get like all the different things on it there. But C60 is the only antioxidant that can increase athletic performance.
Wow.
All the other ones like vitamin E and vitamin D, if you take too much, they start interfering with those signaling molecules, so you like kind of lose the benefit. But since C60 only interacts with superoxide and the hydroxyl ion, which are not signaling molecules, they're so damaging, the body doesn't use them as signaling molecules, that it has no toxicity at any level.
Well, as an electrical engineer, when I look at this buckyball, C60 molecule, I see a sphere.
Yeah, that's what it is, and it's hollow inside. And the
way it works with the sphere is Gaussian law will apply quite nicely. That if you've got a charge on that sphere, that charge will manifest itself uniformly across the surface of the sphere. And that's what happens. See, now a water molecule is a dipole. It's not positive on one side and negative on the other. That's why microwaves that are resonant with that molecule will resonate it, shake it up, and make it heat up something. But the C60 would be great for neutralizing anything that's ionic, which is the case with these radicals we talk about, these oxidizers, and that's what C60 is going to do. So I look at this from an electrical engineering standpoint, because that's my background. Like Gary Rodriguez, we're both space rocket electrical engineers.
Yeah, the other weirdest thing about C60 that's kind of makes it unique in chemistry, C60 is about 3.5 carbon bonds, and carbon likes 4. So it has a propensity to take a positive charge, right? But the thing is, C60 doesn't take a positive charge. Virtually all other molecules, if you put them in a solution or something, they get a positive charge by releasing an electron into the environment. Just every single one, except for C60. What C60 does, it holds its electrons pretty tight and actually pulls hydrogen ions to the inside of its cage-like structure. And it can hold up to 6 there, and that's how it gets a positive charge. And so now it's positively charged, and if like a superoxide comes by, which is an oxygen with an extra electron, it'll stick to the C60. It'll release the electron. The C60 will take the electron, give it to one of those positive hydrogen ions, turning into hydrogen gas, and the oxygen just goes back to being regular oxygen. And if it's a hydroxyl ion, which is basically a water molecule missing its proton, it'll stick to it, and C60 will donate one of the protons from the inside of its cage-like structure to the hydroxyl water, turning it back into water. And that's why C60 can reset itself again and again and again, which is why it's characterized as several hundred times more powerful than conventional antioxidants. But the key thing is it's a selective antioxidant, and so it only interacts with the two most damaging oxidative radicals in the body, superoxide and the hydroxyl ion, and nothing else. And so they did studies like the one where I talked about how it doubled the lifespan of test animals, or prevented the rats from dying from radiation poisoning. That was probably the concentration those rats had was something like 0.1 to 0.2 milligrams of C60 per kilogram of body weight. So they decided, we're going to test where does C60 get toxic. So they gave rats 10,000 or 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, which is 10,000 times a health beneficial dose. And even at that extreme level, there was no toxicity. Obviously, above a certain level, it doesn't do any benefit, but it's C60. So C60 is non-toxic at virtually any level.
That is great news to hear. You take too much of almost anything. Hey, vitamin D3 is one of the most beneficial things you can take. You can definitely take too much of it. And I tell people to take vitamin K2 with it. So
there's no way to there's no way to take too much of C60, but C60, it's a non-polar molecule, so it has to be dissolved in something. In this case, we dissolve it in oils, and we picked a healthy.
It's spherical. Of course, it's non-polar. It can't be polar.
Yeah, exactly. So we have healthy oils, and so above a certain level, obviously you'd be taking like 4 liters of oil a day if you wanted to go to a 1 gram per kilogram body weight, and most of that would probably go right through you. So it's pretty much impossible to overdose on drink. Yeah, you would have one of those very clean livers.
I guess so. What is the ideal dose for this?
Oh, well, it matters upon age and weight. Now, let's say you were in your 30s or maybe early 40s, and you weighed, let's say, 160 to whatever, something below that. Probably a teaspoon a day would be enough for you. But as you get a little bit old,
what about us
old people? It's basically a tablespoon a day.
Tablespoon a day.
If you're really, really big and old, then it's like a tablespoon and a half. But really, never need to take really more than a tablespoon a day. And also because it kind of stimulates everything, you probably want to take it in the morning, because if you take it later at night, it can keep you up. Unless you're one of those people that can take coffee after dinner, then disregard that comment.
I drink coffee at 2 a.m. and go to bed.
Oh, okay. It doesn't matter for you. You can take it anytime then. I can't take coffee after 12 o'clock. I get a little too hyped up. So
well, I don't take my sleep lying down. I take it in the cup.
Oh,
that's a 4-cup cup. It's got 4 fluid cups.
Yeah. What is on that on the surface?
Oh, that's just a tree.
Oh, the tree. Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
I got another one here with my grandkids, but the last one I broke it, so I'm kind of reserving it. So this.
Oh, that's probably a good idea.
Well, my Puerto Rican friend ladies gave this to me.
Oh, cool. That's definitely will get you the coffee you need in the morning.
Yeah. So that'll keep me going. Oh yeah, I'll drink a whole pot in no time flat. I do 1 or 2 pots of coffee a day.
Oh, okay. Well, then you don't have to worry about C60 keeping you up at night. That won't be a problem.
If I manage to lay down, unless there's something wrong, I'm out pretty soon.
Yeah. And one of the things I guess we're going to talk about is C60 and preppers.
Yeah.
And things you want. Now, Now, if you were to buy C60, for our avocado or olive oil, it's about a 2-year shelf life. For the coconut oil, in reality, it's probably about a 5 or more year shelf life. If you really wanted to get hard, but if you put it in the freezer, and then when it thaws out, just shake it so the C60 goes back into solution. It lasts indefinitely. So if you got your freezer hooked up to the solar panels and everything's running, then you're probably going to be fine. And our gummies do about 2 years. We do also do it in gummies. It used to be everything in oil, but we now have these sugar and sugar-free gummies, and it's about 2 gummies a day will give you like a daily dose. But that's in whole coconut oil. And by the way, I'm gonna go. Probably should go.
How long the gummies last?
They last about 2 years.
I suppose the C60 don't ever go bad. It's the actual oil.
They can still find C60 in the KT boundary, because C60 is almost indestructible. It's made like on Earth, it's made like in meteoritic impacts when lightning strikes a tree. Like even in the burnt wick of your candles, like 0.25% C60. But you'd have to,
Preppers, you just got the ultimate advice. The next time the big one hits and kills everything, just go lick the soot on the rocks.
That's right. Actually, get your C60 that way. Yeah. So it's out there, but if you're, but part of this is, getting ready. What it's real thing is just super antioxidant. I have a friend, he had a serious infection, and it was getting pretty bad, but I didn't know about it so I gave him some MCT oil, C60 and MCT oil. And it's not the C60 that got rid of the infection so much. It's the MCT oil. What it is MCT is an extraction of regular coconut oil. So it's got 8 and 6 chain carbon lengths of the triglycerides. And it will, like one time I was moving I've read about it, but I've actually seen it in action. I was moving like a bucket of C60 out through, it was like over the lawn. It was like the cap came off, or it was like a 5-gallon bucket of MCT oil. And some of it spilled on the lawn and dripped on, and I didn't think anything of it. Came back a few days later, totally killed the lawn. Wiped out the grass, the fungi, the bacteria, anything with a cell wall. C60 will wipe, the MCT oil will wipe out. We have cell membranes, right? We're flexible. So MCT oil won't do that. But if you have MCT oil with C60 or nut in it, it's an incredible antibacterial. So an antifungal. So you could just, like, he had a massive infection. He got his elbow infected. The whole thing was puffed up. He put it all over. Next day, boom, gone. So you can use MCT oil.
We got this new fungus coming out called the Candida that a lot of people are worried about right now. So this MCT oil might be a real good thing for.
Oh yeah, if you get any fungal infection, bacterial infections, MCT oil, and you can buy it. It's a little expensive. You can buy it down at your health food store. It's MCT.
What's the best thing you got anything for viral infections?
Well, C60 can help with viral infections. But I can't mention that online because this is going to be posted. But if you go to whatisc60.org, I think they have a little bit there, or you can find it. You can find it on online yourself.
Right, guys, this is not medical advice. We're not medical doctors. We're just rocket scientists. That's all.
That's right. Yeah.
We're just
so don't take our
doctors don't take any of this as medical advice. But if for the
C60, C60 doesn't prevent, cure, or diagnose any disease. And this product has not been approved by the FDA. So just letting you know that. So
proper qualifiers, but
yes, indeed, we need to put those in there. And actually, see what C60 really does, it just lifts the oxidative burden your cells are under, so the cells can heal themselves. And that's really what all healing comes from. There's no drug is going to heal
for you.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have to be careful here in this stage of censorship.
No kidding. But so those rats got their lifespans doubled. What have we seen any appreciable effect on lifespan of other animals?
Oh yeah, they did it on mice too. And because one of the problems with the Botry study is, the rats live like about 5.5 years, which was way longer than a normal, certainly longer than a Worcester rat, and longer than a normal rat. In fact, the last couple of, first they had like the control rats, didn't get anything. Then they had the group that got of olive oil. And then they had the group that got the olive oil with the C60 in it. And of course, once the last control rat died, they stopped giving olive oil and C60 to all the rats. But and then all the olive oil rats died, and then the C60 rats, even though they weren't giving them C60 anymore, they just simply refused to die. They kept living and living, and finally, the last few rats I know, because I know some of the scientists to study, the last few rats had a terrible accident, so they could publish the study. Otherwise, who knows how long they would have lived. Wow. But it's kind of, I guess this case it was perish so you can publish. So
they must have been on that boat that my nugs were on the other day.
Yes.
I flip words around so that the algorithms don't pick it up.
Oh yeah, they're not the AI isn't that bright yet. But so anyway, that study, and then they did one in mice, and they just basically put it in their water. There's a way you can polyhydroxynate it, but that's super expensive, and it's only used for scientists who got fat budgets. So they found in this case it prevented cognitive decline in those mice. These were mice that had cognitive decline issues as they got older. So not only did it extend their lifespans, but it also prevented cognitive decline, which is good. I mean, what's the use of getting older if you're just going to be decrepit, right? Yeah. It kind of defeats the purpose. You want to live a long and healthy life, and that's what C60 promotes.
Now, this is good for health span. And when you're talking arthritis and stuff like that, most of my followers are my age group. We're in our early 60s, late 50s, and some beyond that. So, I was having knee problems. My knee started hurting a few days ago, and I stepped out of my microgreens trailer and twisted it. And oh my God, I thought I heard it pop, but it's actually getting better. So I'm thinking this is something I need to be rubbing on my knee. And I probably
it definitely it doesn't make your face wonderful. It's
you don't have a wrinkle in your face. How old are you?
I'm 61.
You're 61 and don't have a wrinkle in your face. Look at this guy.
Yeah, and the hair is still brown. I've been doing it with C60 about 7 years. It's a little bit missing off the top, but C60 won't cure that. And I don't use cheaters.
Like Rex would always say, Rex Bay said, would you look at it? Just look at this guy.
Yeah, so it's not doing pretty good for me.
Holy smoke, I'm gonna put this stuff on my face.
Yeah, but the thing is the other one is they started with the rats, they were like in their late 20s. So for human to find out human extensions to life studies, we're still got a couple, we got a couple decades it'll lose. But they did some other studies, like you can't do studies on humans because some of it's called unethical. I think they unless your doctor, he can do studies.
Yeah,
you ever know about some studies he did on black children and black orphans on AIDS drugs? If you probably read that, then horrific. He actually whacked more people than Dr. Mengele did.
Why is he still allowed to walk free? I have
no idea. Yeah, here's a guy that killed more people under sadistic experiments and more cruel experiments than Dr. Mengele ever did, and yet he's the big hero, and he gets paid the most in the federal government. Yeah, it's pretty obscene.
Obscene, exactly. I couldn't understand when the T-Man was president, why he didn't fire him. I was going to fire him, and he'd bring him up.
Well, T-Man made a lot of mistakes, and this last, look what happened today or whatever.
Yeah, well,
that's obscene. That's another obscenity. One of Soros's attorneys. Yeah, I mean, it's getting close, folks. And people may not see, there is kind of like a cosmic consciousness or God or whatever you want to call that, the higher spiritual power that, the universe is based on certain principles and values. And when those are violated, if you go back in history, you could see cultures become decadent and evil, and then they are no longer around.
They perish. And our culture's in trouble. That's why I talk that we need to start survival tribes and build a new society. When this culture around us crumbles, it will be left standing. So
you better get on it because it's crumbling fast.
I know it's crumbling fast. We've set up a survival tribe network and .org and some other things to try to facilitate this. So we're trying to make it happen. Ken, you got the solution for the person to take care of yourself, to keep you strong when all this goes on, to help you stay strong and last long. That might be a good moniker for you. Stay strong and last long.
Well, yeah, in Colorado here, I live in the Front Range, and we have like all kinds of, we have groups. They're pretty much informal and everything, but out in the mountains here, they already have all that. There's like large segments of people set up already here. So we have our communities ready to go. when the blank hits the fan, we're going to flip the switches, block the roads, and everything will be there'll be large segments of Colorado and I think other mountain areas.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that we're because I have worked with somebody. I'm not going to mention their name, but they're an engineer and they're in a high position overseeing a lot of stuff. So every time they have these secret meetings, he has to be invited because of his importance. He hasn't retired yet, but one of these days. And they have plans when they press the button, when the blank hits the fan button goes, they actually have plans that, like all your local sheriffs and police chiefs, they've gotten orders from the feds that the first thing they do is they're going to block the roads out of the city. They're going to shut all the highways out of the roads out of the city because they don't want people flooding out into the countryside and then running out of gas and becoming a problem in the countryside. So when they declare that emergency, first thing gets shut down is all the exits out of your city. So if you don't know the secret way out of the city or aren't out of the city already, you're stuck where you are, and you better be aware that's what's going to happen.
I've had a lot of people ask me, Greg, what's the best way to prep in this city or that city? I tell you, the best way to prep in your city is get out. Get out of the city. I keep telling people that.
Yeah, because when it goes, you won't do it. And I don't know, people. This happened back in I think 2018, and I guess it would be the second Philadelphia experiment. And they have those the electronic cards they give for welfare people, EBT cards or whatever they call them, electronic benefit transaction cards. And so all of a sudden, just in Philadelphia, the those benefit cards stopped working. The plastic stopped working. But in Pittsburgh, they were working fine. In Baltimore, they're working fine. New York, working fine. But only in Philadelphia, in that area, were they not working. And they stayed not working for about a little bit over 2 weeks, about 2.5 weeks. And that's when the welfare recipients started rioting. And when that started, all the cards turned back on. And of course, they went down to the local store, the liquor store, or wherever, and so the riot stopped. Wow. So they were doing a beta test, right? They were doing a beta test on how long they've got after the plastic stops working before the proverbial hors d'oeuvre hits the fan, and it's a little over 2 weeks. Wow. So if you have a banking collapse and your plastic stops working, you got 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to get your blank together and get ready, because after that, the bad things are going to start happening.
If all your money is in the bank, you might wind up with a blank.
Yes. Yeah, you might. Yeah, I would recommend taking a good hunk of your money out of the bank. Of course, by now you probably should. If you got that much money in the bank, you probably already should have taken it out and bought something like silver. Especially junk silver if you can get it, that's junk silver isn't junk, it's just dimes and quarters pre-65. Yeah. So that's probably the best thing. But even just having cash and of course food. And that's where, if you think about it, if you don't have a lot of money and stuff, the first thing you can start doing is just buying food. And most of those cans, they say they got a 3-year shelf life, but most of them could go 10, 15 years. They just put that 3, so you throw them away and get new ones. But they've taken those can of beans out for 15 years and they're still good. So
I did a video where I covered that. Some of them can last a lot longer than that even. But you just got to know what on the can about it being bent or any indication they got a breach in the canister itself.
Oh yeah, there's ways of doing that.
Acidic content such as fruit tend to rust through and make them go bad.
Yeah, exactly. Things like tomato sauce.
Oh yeah,
tomato. Yeah, you can't do tomato sauce.
Yeah, a lot of fruits and things like that will go bad because they will eat through the can and get in it. Or if the can gets bent or somewhere a defect that gets air into it, it's no good. But other than that, some of the pop tops could be more susceptible to getting a leak. But if it don't get a leak, that stuff is good. I mean, the pop top. If it don't leak, if the can's not bent, the one way to tell is if the can is bloated.
Yeah, then you know it's bad.
It's bloated. It's got bacterial metabolic activity in it. That stuff is bad. Don't even open it unless you want to.
Yeah, and there's places to get it. There's places like and there's also, you get really affordable long-term food. The Mormons, they've got the Deseret store where they sell, because every Mormon's supposed to have like 6 months to a year's food supply.
Oh, yeah, well, those guys are the source of most of your prepper food. You can go to prepwithgreg.com and get right now $200 off of a 3-month supply, or you can get off of a 4-week supply too. So just go to prepwithgreg.com for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there. It's a good, So that's probably the first thing to invest in is food.
Yeah, And I got
And actually, the first thing investment, if you have food and you don't have one of those bang sticks, well, you won't have food very long.
that's right.
So maybe the bang sticks are what you're gonna want to have first, and then the food.
Keep a pet
And
nug. Make sure you got plenty of kibbles to feed that pet nug. And
yes, exactly.
it's a warm nug, and to keep the
Yes.
warm, you got to feed it some kibbles to cycle through.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's some things that, yeah. So there's kind of like a hierarchy. But I mean, if you're already listening here and you got some gray hair, you probably already figured these things out. These are for the newbies or people that are wander through and see this sometime. And the youngsters who a lot of those generation XYZers, especially the latest ones. I have because we're in Colorado, I have somebody that does he's an outfitter, right? Does, takes people out into the countryside and stuff. They get some of these kids and, from the city and stuff. They're like 25 years old, they're like young tech people. They don't know how to even start a fire, right? Make a campfire. They don't know how to make a campfire. They don't know how to set up a tent. They don't know how to make a latrine. They don't know how to make, I was a Boy Scouts when I was a kid, when I became an Eagle Scout, did that thing. And so there's a lot of these younger generations that, they're going to need a lot of guidance when things go bad, just to do the everyday basic stuff, because somehow they never learned it when they were growing up.
When I was a kid, I joined the Boy Scouts, but I quit because they didn't go camping enough to suit me. I spent my time in the woods. Shoot.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna go out in the woods and spend my time there by myself.
Yeah, I lived in the woods, so when I was a kid. So yeah, just like, hey, I was in the woods already. So it was but we built forts and stuff and all kinds of cool stuff in the woods. We did. Yeah, kids don't have that anymore. You go to the neighborhoods now, you just drive through them, even on the weekends, and they're empty. There's nobody outside, virtually nobody. When we were kids in the summertime, like our parents would just kick us out in the morning.
Yeah, right? There'd be all kinds of kids on the road riding.
Yeah, we all riding their bikes and going to people's house. We go to somebody's house to eat lunch, right? Yeah. And she'd feed us all. The wives mostly stayed home, and the husbands worked. That kind of stuff. We'd sit up
dirt piles and jump them with the bicycles and.
Oh yeah. Make army forts and stuff. Oh yeah,
Evel Knievel or something,
Yeah, we got a few scars from that, and doing stupid things. But that's how you learn not to do stupid things.
1,000 wonders that I'm still here,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's exactly. And so, but yeah, that whole thing they missed out on. Now they just sit around behind screens and play video games or something. Because you go and you don't see them out. Hardly any kids outside. They're just all behind screens.
Vitamin D, they got extra fat, their bodies are out of shape. So they're the whisker rats. They need this C60 more than anybody.
They do need it. They do, but they're probably not paying attention the most. And it's like the U.S. military was going, they had one of the reports. It was just like last month, they found that 77% of like American 18 years old or 19-year-old, that ones for recruiting, were unfit for military duty. 77%. That doesn't leave much.
I'm sure they lowered the bar. That's probably.
Oh yeah, they probably lowered the bar. It'd probably be a lot worse. It'd be like 85% or unfit for military service. Yeah.
I went to the Army when I was 19-year-old.
So yeah,
I've had my time in service.
Yeah. So you were fit. Yeah. And I remember back in the 60s and 70s, everybody was thin. It'd be very rarely you would see an obese person, but now it's like 40%. And this is the young kids. We're not talking like somebody who's really old. We're just talking the younger generation. It's just there's going to be some real suffering when the blank hits the fan, because they'll be thin, but kind of that hard diet plan.
Oh, they're going to have a hard time adjusting to that, and they're going to be mad.
Yeah, especially with no internet.
And they'll be lashing out at everybody else because it's their fault. It's your fault. It's their fault. And they get really furious when they don't get internet or get their toys to play with.
Yeah, they didn't really. They didn't grow up. And but there's also the rat study. I'll give you another rat study, not a C60 one, but they did this thing. They had we got 3 sets of rats. They had the control rats, and they had the control rats were in this little metal cage. They had water and food. That was the control one. Then they had the first set of test rats, and they were in this metal cage, got the water and the food, but they would randomly shock the cage with a strong electric shock. And then they had another set, and that was, the rats were in the metal cage, they had their food and water, and they would randomly, they would shock it, but the big red light would come on before they shocked the cage. Okay, so that was the setup for the experiment. Then they ran the experiment. And as you imagine, the control rats that live in the cages, they were perfectly fine, right? They lived. And then the rats that lived in the cages that were getting shocked, that had the red lights, they all survived. They probably were not happy rats because they got shocked, powerful electric shock every now and then, but they were fine. But the rats that were in the cages that were just randomly shocked, they all went insane and died from the stress.
Wow.
And so that's why being conscious about what's going on around you.
Wow. That's a big
important.
Yeah, we know what's coming. We know what's coming. That red light's come on. And
yeah, got red light coming. We know it's gonna hurt. We know it's gonna hurt. Ooh.
Yeah, if you're the red light right now, you're not paying attention.
Yeah, but that's what's going to happen to all those yupsters and all those not paying attention, millennials and the rest of them. What's been happening, like COVID and this stuff and that stuff. They're like, those are just random shocks out of nowhere. And then when this, the economy blows and you're probably going to lose the world dollar trading currency, collapse the stock market, food, we all gone through the scenarios, and other people have probably seen this and what's going to happen. But, those are going to be random shocks out of nowhere. And they expect, from psychologists who kind of in that area have studied this, they expect somewhere around 30% of the American population is just going to totally lose their minds. They're just going to go batshit crazy. And that we're not talking about the guys that have meds who aren't going to be getting meds because they won't be delivered from China because there's a trade embargo on. We're not talking about those guys. They're going to go wacko anyway. But 30% will just lose their minds because those are the rats in the cage that are getting randomly shocked.
Wow. Well, don't be the rat in the cage, guys. I tell people not to be the long pork.
Yeah, you don't want to be the long pork.
Don't be the uninformed rat.
And if you're some parts of the city, I think you might end up long pork. So be careful.
Yeah, if you're close to that city, they might block the roads, but if you're within walking distance of that city after the roads are blocked, or even a tank of gas away, you are in grave danger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had a friend, he was gonna, here in Denver, he knew that was gonna happen, those cities. So actually what he did, he had a plan. He was gonna take he was already had like some places set up in the mountains. He was gonna he could drive down the bike pass. The bike pass would get big enough to put like a pickup truck or a Jeep on and get out of town. So if the highways are blocked, don't forget, you can get out of town on the bike path.
Then you might need a bike, put it back in the back. I've got property in Arizona, and the locals there in Arizona have told me that they got plans already. There's like 3 mountain ranges between them and Phoenix. They're gonna block all the passes so nobody from Phoenix can get up in their part of the state.
Oh yeah, don't worry, the sheriffs will do that for you. And that's the first thing they do. They're gonna shut down the highways.
The sheriffs don't do it, the locals will. They're already thinking.
Oh yeah.
So I can expect bridges to be taken out or manned. There'll be checkpoints, and they won't all be maintained by law enforcement.
Yeah, so
checkpoints. So that's what you got to look at, guys. So you better think about your bug out or bug in provisions right now and how to best handle that. And one thing you ought to do is start with a strong foundation. Start with this C60. It'll get your health back up. Get some, and I'm about to go all over it because I can really use this stuff. Especially when I look at Ken here, and he's my age, and he looks like I did when I chaired a conference 30 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
He looks like he's 30. Holy shit.
Yeah, well, I don't feel like I'm 30, but yeah, definitely C60. I've been using it about 7 years. And actually, we've had some people.
Holy smoke.
Yeah, I had some guy, my friend Max, he actually, he's kind of in the health thing. So he took a telomere test before he started taking C60.
Yeah.
And he was, I think, 55, and the telomere test came back like 54. And but then after taking C60 for about 4 years, he said he went in and it came back like 42 or something.
So your telomeres grow when you
No, what happens is C60, this is one of the other things they discovered was it started with the discovery. It started with then they gave rabbits arthritis in their joints.
Yeah.
And then they used C60 to get down the inflammation, right? And it did. It worked just exactly. But then when they looked at the joints, they found out that the cartilage had regrown in them. So they didn't just get rid of the inflammation. The C60 caused the joints to regrow. And then they studied it further, and they found out that C60 stimulates stem cell production.
Wow.
And the way it does that is what happens is we have a lot of senescent cells in our body.
Right.
And those, we call them zombie cells.
Right.
You know, the DNA is damaged. They can't really reproduce, but they don't want to die. So what they do is they go into the fermentation mode. And so they're burning sugars at about 1/20th the efficiency of the Krebs cycle. And they're putting out all kinds of alcohols and other toxins and poisoning the cells around them. And the way they do that is they stop giving antioxidants to the mitochondria.
Like that, you know?
Yes, they stop because the mitochondria burn the oxygen, but if the bigger cells stop giving the antioxidants to the mitochondria have to go in fermentation mode. Well, when you take C60, the C60 absorbed by these senescent cells, and the mitochondria absorb the C60, and because C60 is an SOD catalase mimic, the mitochondria turn themselves back on. And so now they're in the fermentation, now they're going in the oxygen Krebs cycle. But one of the things they do is they'll send messages to the nuclear DNA, that's the big DNA in the cell, and they won't get the right message back, and they cause apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. So when you take C60, it starts wiping out all these senescent cells, killing them left and right. And then your tissues don't have enough cells to function, or then they send out messages, hey, stem cells, you need to come in here and make new. Because we've had people that had a thyroid that had zero functionality, right? For decades. They take C60, they cut their thyroid cuts, they cut their thyroid medicines cut in half. And it's been going down since a lot of times. Because what's happening is the C60 kills off the senescent cells. Then they're replaced with stem cells, which have a full set of telomeres and also work correctly.
Now, wait, that is a huge benefit for radiation sickness, because your thyroid takes that radioactive iodine in. So if this is taking care of those cells, you're rebuilding your thyroid. Holy smoke!
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't increase telomeres. What it does is it brings in the stem cells, which have longer telomeres. So
exactly. It kills off the senescent cells, which have really short telomeres, and they're replaced by stem cells, which have almost a full set.
Okay, so it don't actually increase the length of telomeres. It enables the replacement of cells with short telomeres. But there are other things you can take telomerase or other stuff to help increase your.
That definitely, that's different. Or you could take FOXO4.
And what is that?
FOXO4 is a peptide, and they did a study in the I think the early 2000s, and from Switzerland, and then it never released it, because if you go look up the FOXO4 peptide in mice, they took 70-year-old mice, right, that are all decrepit, losing their hair, and they gave them FOXO4 peptide. This FOXO4 peptide is a super senescent cell killer. Well, it just doesn't take out the senescent cells. It takes out half senescent cells. And so they took these rats that looked like 70 years old, and they made them 45 years old again.
Wow, that's what I need.
And they did a bunch of studies. Look it up, FOXO4, and then rat age. And then they were going to do this big human study in Switzerland, and it never got released. But the clinic appeared, because if you could take a 70-year-old guy and turn him 45 years ago old, how much would you pay for it?
A lot.
A lot of money. But so anyway, anyone's out there can get the protocols, I'd be happy, because you can buy FOXO4 on online. You have to inject it or have somebody inject it for you, but you can buy it online. But we don't have the protocols. But if you were to take FOXO4 and C60, holy moly, you could live to 120 probably. And that's just one of the many age increasing technologies which are out there. And C60 is just one. C60 really just gives you a long and healthy life. But like you said, there's telomerase, which can actually do your telomeres. There's the FOXO4 therapy, and there's other things coming out there. You know, I'm sure there's some kids born today which are going to be alive 200 years from now.
Now, I want to start a channel soon on longevity. You know, most of my followers are up here in their 60s.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us would like to be able to kick around for a while longer.
Yeah, well,
kick in the bucket.
Yeah, C60 will get you healthy and you live in a long time. But yeah, these other technologies, they're out, like the FOXO4, because all I know is that they were going to do the study. They did the study. They never released results. And even if most studies, even if they're negative results, they're released because scientists want to publish it. But these were never released. And all of a sudden, there was a clinic appeared.
Wow.
A special clinic. Wow. Where I think you have to have like gobs of money. So there's, you know, you always wonder how some of these really old geezers last forever, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the super wealthy ones. Why is George Soros still alive? You know, why are these other people? Why is Henry Kissinger still alive?
They
could just be doing.
forever, you know?
Well, yeah, they could be doing the blood of young people. You found that? Remember they did that study? No, they actually found they did it with rats first. They took the blood of young rats and then they transfused it into old rats, and the old rats became much younger. And they, they had a lot of young characteristics again. And they actually have a thing where right now, if you're a teenager, you can go down and donate your blood, and they pay you like a pile load of money, and they're taking that blood and they're putting it into really old rich people. And those old rich people are now living way, way longer. And that's probably why Henry Kissinger's literally, it's like vampires, but you can't like suck the blood. You actually have it to have somebody, the phlebotomist stick it into you. But yeah, they can actually take teenage blood, children's blood, put it into really old rich people. And those old rich people, that's why there's probably Henry Kissinger still around. Right? Why is George Soros still alive? Yeah, that's why they're alive. Yeah, they're probably getting injected with the blood of young children.
Gross.
Oh!
Gross. I've heard that. I didn't want to talk about it because it's so gross. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, if you're a teenager, you can actually donate your blood and get like paid gobs of money for it. So
I didn't know that when I was a teenager. I probably would have been donating.
I probably would have gone down there. Yeah, if they could pay me $300 or $400 or a donation, sign me up.
Money was tight when I was a teenager. All righty. Well, I think we've done a good bit of damage here. So, folks, if you want to get the C60, you can go to his website. I'm going to take you there. Let me see if I do this.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget, there's a coupon code or a discount code called Greg10.
Yeah, so I'm now an affiliate marketer. This is a discount code called Greg10. Hang on a minute. I got to go back to my main screen here. Hit the wrong button. Hit the share screen button. And this is it. It's a shopc60.com, or you can type 660 purple power, but shopc60.com, and you come in here and just do what you normally do to buy something. You hit the shop button.
Well, the reason we call it C60 purple power is because when you dissolve C60 in a clear substance like MCT oil, it turns it purple. So the color of C60 dissolved is purple.
If you come here to buy something, you add it to the cart. You come on down and you hit the checkout, and this is where you get to add discount.
Right there, just
Greg 10, Greg Jerry G 10, and hit apply, and you're going to get a discount right off the bat. So you'll save money, 10% off by hitting Greg 10, and that'll help both of us. It'll help you and me both. All righty. Hey, here's what's the crazy thing. I'm going to stop the share. That I had been puzzled for how to make rocket fuel with C60 for 20 some odd years. And suddenly it just occurred to me, see the Gaussian properties of the buckyball have been very attractive to me as an electrical engineer who is into rockets. And suddenly it occurred to me how to do the manufacturing of this. And within 30 minutes, I get an email from Ken about C60. And here's the other thing. I had a helper here with the worm farm who went and got some parts, and she was standing on my shoulder telling me how another Ken, who's a good buddy of mine at the parts store, gave me a big discount on parts. So I got Ken, C60, and I opened the email from him, and there's Gary Rodriguez, no buddy of mine from way back, and that's like, whoa, the stars lined up. So I think there's something magical here, guys. So I think this may be the key to your health. Check it out. Go to shopc60.com, place your order, and then put Greg 10 in for your discount code. It'll save you money, and it'll make us both happy. All right, Ken. Wow, we could go on forever. We'll have to do some more shows and talk rocket.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll get you on Galactic Greg's, and I'll start this other channel up. It'll probably be small at first, but you'd be a regular welcome guest there. So everybody, I really appreciate y'all for watching this. Go get some of this stuff today and pay attention, guys. The red light is on.
Yes, it is.
The red light is on. Oh my God. Ken, appreciate it. And everyone, take care of yourself. And I may go live later tonight. I don't know. We got storms coming in the area, but do check this out, guys. Shopc60.com. Thank y'all for watching, and Greg out.